Explanation: this statement may refer to what happened at the beginning of the companionship, in the form of wars in the Arabian Peninsula and Roman Empire. It is also possible that it refers to the period of revival or the second internationalization of Islam during the reign of al-Mahdi. This second possibility, in my opinion, is the one with the strongest evidence, especially since other hadiths corroborate it. Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, "Have you ever heard of a city where one side is on land and the other side is on the sea?" The companions replied, "Yes, O Messenger of Allah." He said, "The hour will not occur until 70,000 men of Banu Ishaq fight it." When they came to the city, they entered it, but they did not fight with weapons, swords, nor did they shoot arrows. They cried out, "La ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar." Then one of the two sides of the city collapsed. Source said, "I do not know it, unless he said the one in the sea." Then they cried out a second time, "La ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar." Then the other side collapsed. Then they shouted a third time, "La ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar." And the city was opened wide to them, so they entered it and got the spoils of war. While they were dividing the booty, a man who was shouting loudly came to them and said, "The Dajjal has come out." So they left. All that and went home. Muslim al-Fitan wa Asarath as Sa, Hadith No. 2920. We say, this hadith narrates the liberation of Constantinople, as other hadiths also narrate the city was liberated with takbir, which indicates that the warriors of truth at the end of time are strengthened with supernatural assistance. This cannot happen except to a group of people who are Rabbani educated, people who are confident and patient, from among those who do their deeds sincerely for the sake of Allah. What we learn from this hadith is that it was the Muslims from the Banu Ishaq who liberated Constantinople. And Nawawi said, Al-Qadi said, this is how it is with all the scholarly Muslim hadiths about the Banu Ishaq. He said, some of them said, what is known and confirmed is the Banu Ishaq. And that is what this hadith and its phrasing indicate, because he meant only the Arabs. Muslim by Sire and Nawawi. In my opinion, that they were from the Banu Ishaq is corroborated by the information quoted by Al-Qadi from a number of scholars that they were from the Banu Ismail. What is strange is that there is a large group of Muslims from Khurasan who claim that they are actually the Banu Ishaq, and that they are the ones to whom these hadiths refer. It is also understood that the people of Khurasan are the followers and defenders of al-Mahdi, as narrated in a number of hadiths. Hence, it is also possible that in general, the army of Mahdi will be from among them. There is a saying of Hafsa radiyallahu anha addressed to her brother, Lunu Omar radiyallahu anhuma, which was when she had met Ibn Shayyad. Do you not know that the Messenger of Allah said, the Dajjal only comes out because of the anger with which he is angered? Sahih Muslim. Explanation: I have fully and clearly mentioned this hadith in the chapter that corresponds to it. Namely, the incident that happened to Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, when he angered Ibn Shayyad and hit him. Hafsa then mentions a saying of the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in which the Dajjal will come out because of anger that is triggered by something that makes him angry. Anyone who has studied the hadiths I have mentioned about this matter carefully in the chapter on Mahdi will know the causes of Dajjal's anger. And this is also the trigger for the wars of alliance that will lead to the total destruction of the Jews in Palestine. This is the darkest period that will befall them, which has been mentioned in Surah Al-Isra. It is well known that the Jews are the right hand of Dajjal. Then came the great battle Malhama Ujma that resulted in the total destruction of the Christian forces, who were the left hand of Dajjal. Then came the massive attack on Constantinople and the war against the Romans in their own country. At that time, Dajjal was like a volcano that wanted to erupt immediately due to these events, and could no longer wait for the day to approach that had been destined by Allah. B. Occurrence of famine and drought. Asma bint Yazid reported, we were with the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in his house, and he said, In the third year before the appearance of the Dajjal, the sky will withhold 1/3 of its rain, and the earth will withhold 1/3 of its crops. In the second year before the appearance of the Dajjal, the sky withholds 2/3 of its rainwater, and the earth withholds 2/3 of its vegetation. A year before the Dajjal's advent, the sky will withhold all its rainwater, and the earth will withhold all its vegetation, so that not a single creature with shoes kufuf, or a creature with hooves will remain, but will surely die. Ahmad, Musnad al-Kabail, Hadith No. 27637, with a sanad that is acceptable la basa bihi to be used as proof with its equivalent. We say, this hadith describes the occurrence of observable climate change in a span of 3 years, resulting in aridity and famine. This is closely related to the appearance of the Dajjal and his fitna. This era takes place between the colossal battle Malhama Ujma and the liberation of Constantinople, because the indications leading to the fitna of the Dajjal have already begun to appear gradually. It is well known that this era is the era of the rise of the second internationalization of Islam. It is clear from the various athar that this process of awakening took place after the victories achieved from the most decisive battles that were considered tests. This is similar to the era of Saul, whose troops experienced great fatigue and thirst before they came to a river, as the culmination of the test. Plus, there was a command from Allah limiting the amount of water that could be drunk from the river, and this was also part of the test. It is stated in the hadith of Tamim and Dajjal's question to them Tamim and his companions, when Dajjal said, the man said, "You tell me about the date palm groves of Bison." We asked him back, "What are you asking about?" He said, "I am asking you about the date palms. Have they borne fruit?" We told him, "Yes, it has." He said, "Behold, it will not be long before the trees bear fruit." He said, "You tell me about the lake of Thabaria Tiberia." We asked, "What is it that you are asking about?" He replied, "Is there still water there?" They replied, "There is still plenty of water." He said, "Behold, the water will indeed run out." He said again, "Tell me about the spring of Zughur." They asked him back, "What are you asking about?" He replied, "Is there still water in the spring? And do the people around it farm with water from that spring?" We replied to him, "Yes, the spring still has water, and the people who live in that place cultivate with the flow of its water." The takhrij has been presented in the previous section. We say, this hadith describes some of the signs leading up to the appearance of the Dajjal, and most of these signs occur in the land of Palestine. Perhaps these signs have something to do with the drought that has struck various parts of the world, resulting in the depletion of water in a number of seas and lakes, including the Tiberian Lake. There will also be depletion of water in the cavities in the bowels of the earth, for example marked by the dryness of the Zughur spring. This drought will have a major impact on the majority of vegetation, such as the date palm groves of Bison. These signs are mentioned by the Dajjal, specifically to Tamim, may Allah be pleased with him, and those who are with him, because they are among the inhabitants of these regions. As for the previous hadith, it indicates a famine that will hit the earth as a whole. These signs were also seen by the people of the Levant, in particular, for they were in that era, like the Muslims' eggs, ready to hatch and become a symbol of their strength. In addition to their city being the capital of the Muslims as a whole, as explained in the chapter on the Mahdi. See, Fitna du Haima. There is a hadith about the great fitna from Abdul H. ibn Omar, may Allah be pleased with him, in which the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, says, "Then the fitna du Haima, the fitna of deep darkness, does not leave any one of this ummah unless he slaps him with the real slap." When it is said, the fitna has stopped, the truth is that the fitna continues. A person enters the morning as a believer, but he enters the evening as a disbeliever, so that people are divided into two groups. The group of faith with no hypocrisy in it, and the group of hypocrites with no faith in it. If this is your situation, then you are waiting for the Dajjal, that day or the next. Hr. Abu Dawud, Al-Fitan wa al-Malahim, Ahmad, Al-Mukatsirin, Hadith No. 6173. Al-Hakim, Al-Fitan, Hadith No. 8441. And he said, this hadith has a Sahih chain of transmission. Ad-Jahabi confirmed it. We say, this hadith indicates that there is a fitna duhaima, which is a black and pitch black fitna that occurs before the appearance of the Dajjal and is one of the signs of preparation for his appearance. This fitna is different from the other fitna because it is the most similar to the fitna of Dajjal, although it differs in level. If the percentage of the Dajjal fitna in the standard set of fitness is 100, then the duhaima fitna is 90%. That is why anyone who wants to know the nature of this fitna and its various conditions should study the fitna of the Dajjal, its snares and its followers, because he may end up living the life described in terms of its characteristics that are close to those of the Dajjal, its disguises for people, and its crush on the servants of Allah. The followers and supporters who take part in the fitna duhaima are close in nature to the followers of the Dajjal, of course with differences in level and rank between the two groups. I have explained the connection between this fitna, which eventually led to the uncovering of a golden mountain from the Euphrates River, and the fitna of the Dajjal. I have also explained the connection with the sign of smoke, and the connection with the appearance of the Mahdi. These events occur sequentially, continuously, and are closely interwoven with one another, so please refer back to the details in the discussion presented in the previous section. D. The occurrence of several major events prior to the appearance of the Dajjal. Samra ibn Jundab, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said in his khutbah after the solar eclipse prayer, by Allah, the day of resurrection will not come until 30 liars appear, the last of whom will be the blind man, Dajjal, who will have his left eye removed. The appearance of the last of these liars will not take place until you see things coming to a head in yourselves, and you ask each other, has your prophet told you some of them? And until the mountains are moved from their positions. Narrated by Al-Hakim and Ibn Abi Shayba, from their line of location. Ahmad, beginning of Musnad al-Bashriyan, Hadith No. 20,199. Al-Haythami said, this hadith was narrated by Ahmad and Al-Thabarani in Al-Kabir. And Ahmad's narrators were used by Al-Bukhari in his Sahih, apart from Salabah ibn Abad, who was declared Sika by Lunyu Hibban. Explanation: this hadith has been explained in the discussion on natural events. What we learn from this hadith is that the appearance of the Dajjal will be preceded by several major events that will significantly affect the entire Ummah. And they will be confused and ask each other, were these major events ever mentioned in the Prophet's guidance? This shows how great the danger will be, and that one of them may even obliterate a mountain. I have explained the description of these major events in the chapter Natural Events, so please refer back to it. In my opinion, indications and signs of some of these major events have already begun to occur in our time, so we ask Allah to save us from them. The spread of destruction, ignorance, and hatred on earth. Rashid ibn Sa'd reported, a caller called out, behold, the Dajjal has indeed come out. Rashid said, Shab bin Jatsama met them. Rashid said, then Shab said, were it not for what you have said, I would have told you that I heard the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, the Dajjal will not appear until people forget about him, and until the imams forget to remind him on the pulpit. Reported by Ahmad. Musnad al-Madaniyan, 16,672. Al-Haythami said, this hadith was narrated by Abdul H. ibn Ahmad, on the authority of Baqiya from Shafwan ibn Amr. And it is Sahih, as Lunyu Mayan said, and the rest of the narrators are Sahih. Jabir ibn Abdullah radiyallahu anhu reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, the Dajjal will appear when there is a void of din, and when knowledge is abandoned. Part of a long hadith narrated by Ahmad, Baqi Musnad al-Mukatsirin, Hadith No. 14,965. Abu Thufail reported, I was in Kufa when it was said, the Dajjal has appeared. The narrator of this hadith said, we went to Hudhaifa ibn Asad because he had narrated the hadith. I said, this is the Dajjal coming out. Hudhaifa bin Asad said, sit down. I sat down, and then a fortune teller came to me and said, this is the Dajjal who has come out, and the people of Kufa are obeying him. Hudhaifa bin Asad said, sit down. I sat down, and then he said, the news that the Dajjal has come out is indeed a polished lie. Rawi said, we said, O Abu Sariha, did you not make us sit except for one thing? Tell us about it. He Abu Sariha, or Hudhaifa, said, verily, the Dajjal, if he were to appear in your time, the children would throw slingshots at him. But the Dajjal will come out in the midst of hatred among the people, lightness, loneliness of the din, and the breakdown of human relations. Hr. Al-Hakim, Al-Fitan, Hadith. No. 8612. He said, this is a Sahih Hadith.